And the great thing about fellowship has always been that it's been friendly and it's been just like part of my family history.
We're rolling on sound and camera. Perfect.
Well, my name is Ruth Redford. I grew up at the church. I've been involved with fellowship all of my life. As a child, of course, I attended the children's program. I know I taught the toddlers or 4 and 5-year-olds. I was a quizzing coach. I served in the choir for probably 35 years. I was church treasurer in my later 20s, served in the nursery, served AMPS, which was the coffee and donut hour afterwards. So just always been involved here. Yes, my dad was a charter member. He was only 26 when the resolution to start fellowship was signed. He was elected as the spokesperson. There were 69 members of Ridgemont Baptist Church who were charter members, and that number grew to 77 by the time the resolution was signed in March of '61. And the motivations of this group of people, I'd like to go back to the start of Ridgemont. Ridgemont is the church that we came from, and Ridgemont actually came from Connors Avenue German Baptist Church. Connors was started by a group of 17 people. They had German services, and I think it was probably because they were immigrants from Germany and they just wanted to worship God in their heart language. By the mid-40s, their children were growing up and they did start becoming more bilingual, and they did have English services. And by the 50s, they had outgrown their location and they purchased 3 acres on the north side of 8 Mile. And so they had basically 2 buildings that the church was meeting in. And by, I think, 1953, they had 400 members. They were just growing hugely. And I'm sure the German was spoken in the hallways and in the ladies' room and all of that. And they just felt that it would be difficult to invite their friends and neighbors and coworkers to a bilingual church, and they wanted a place where they could reach out to the community, just an English-speaking church. The nucleus of people decided to start Fellowship Baptist Chapel. So they purchased a 100-year-old schoolhouse from Warren Consolidated Schools, and they renovated it, and the first services were in May of 1961. The schoolhouse that they originally bought was 2 buildings connected by a hallway, and one of the first things that they did was they built a fellowship hall in between the 2 buildings. They grew and realized that they needed a new sanctuary, and so in 1967 they built the sanctuary that we meet in today. Well, the first pastor, I was only 5 years old, 1961 to 1965, and so I don't really remember Reverend Stein very much. I remember Reverend Walker. He seemed very kind and approachable. He was the pastor that was at the church when this new sanctuary was built. He must have been a visionary, and he must have just really stepped out in faith, and he led the church, and the church grew when he was here. So fellowship has always been creative and innovative in trying to reach out.
Put your little hand in mine. There ain't no hill or mountain we can't climb.
Let's fast forward a few decades. What can you tell me about spotlights? What was a spotlight? When did this happen? Why?
Okay. Well, spotlights were one of the ways that the church wanted to be an outreach to people. These occurred under the leadership of Pastor Ron Seck when he was our pastor. So these were in the 70s and 80s, and the original spotlights were more musical. It was just entertainment, but at the end, there was always a message. If you and your husband wanted a night out, I know we sometimes had them around Valentine's Day, so it was like a date night.
Do you remember any specific examples of spotlights?
I mean, I do remember that people probably go way outside of their comfort zone in entertaining us.
In his DVD. He's got a union card and he's practicing hard to play the guitar. Gonna be a big star, yeah, he's gonna go far.
Fellowship has changed through the years as far as the methods that they do outreach. Of course, you can't use the same methods from 40 years ago. You know, the methods have changed at the church, and of course the facilities have changed at the church. We keep growing and expanding and adding on, but of course it's always stayed the same in that we want to get to know God better. We want to edify and build up the church community. We want church to be a place where Christians can come and grow and fellowship and be with other Christians, but we also want it to be a place where we can invite people so that they can become a part of God's family. And it's also important, I know at the beginning and all through the church, people have been willing to serve and willing to sacrifice their time. When I looked back through the history of the church, I know that the men would come and they made that schoolhouse into a sanctuary, and they were resourceful, and they all worked together, and they sacrificed a lot for the building up of the church. It's important that everybody does their part, that people don't just come and hear the messages and go home and that's it. But it is important to think about how you can serve here at the church and how God can use you, and you will be blessed so much.
I know at this point I might just label you as like historian.
My dad, that was one of my dad's titles.
Historian? Mm-hmm. Just for fellowship or for like other things?
No, fellowship.
That's cool. You always need someone or a few people that can call up the past.
Right, and document it.
Yeah.
Because if it's not written down, people forget.